Look, Trump just did something that should make every African pause. He didn't just condemn violence in Nigeria, he threatened to go in, guns blazing, to completely wipe out terrorists. His exact words. But here is what makes this story fascinating. The two faiths Nigerians are supposedly unalived over, neither one is actually Africa. And there is another layer. A massive economic shift happening right now in Nigeria and nobody's talking about it. And the timing, that's what makes this whole thing very, very interesting. So here is what went down. November 1st, 2025, Trump posted on Truth Social saying Nigeria is committing Christian genocide. He says the USA will immediately stop all aid and may go into that now disgraced country, guns blazing. He instructed what he now calls the Department of War to prepare for action. And he added this: if we attack, it will be fast, vicious and sweet. Fast, vicious and sweet. Those are his exact words for potentially bombing an African country. Now, a Nigerian human rights lawyer, Bulama Bukati, who's done PhD research on this, looked at the actual numbers. Boko Haram attacked 83 churches and 72 mosques. They unalived over 2,000 Muslim worshippers in mosques compared to about 1,500 in churches. So these terrorists, they are unaliving everyone. Muslims and Christians, they bomb markets, mosques, churches, anywhere they find civilians. So why is Trump framing this as Christian genocide when the data shows something completely different? What changed? Why now? Because when you look at what's happening economically at this exact moment in Nigeria, the timing starts to look less like coincidence. Now here is something that people don't know. While the world's been focused on religious violence, something massive has been happening in the background. Nigeria just built the largest refinery in Africa, the Dangote refinery, biggest single train refinery in the world, 650,000 barrels per day. But here is where it gets crazy. Dangote just announced he's doubling the capacity to 1.4 billion barrels per day. That dethrones India and makes it the largest refinery. For decades, Nigeria has been doing exactly what the colonial powers wanted. Export crude oil, import refined products, stay dependent. Now, they are refining their own oil, producing everything they used to import. This is industrialization, economic independence. Now, religious tensions in Nigeria, not new. People being unalived, it has been happening for decades. But for decades, while Nigeria has been exporting crude and staying dependent, we didn't hear American presidents threatening to bomb them over religious violence. Nigeria builds the world's biggest refinery, and suddenly within months, religious violence that's existed for years become an existential threat, requiring American intervention. The timing raises a lot of questions. Now, let me be clear first. There is violence, real one. People are being unalived, and bringing attention to it, that's not entirely bad. I give Trump credit for that. If pressure helps protect Nigerian citizens, all of them, that matters. But here is what Trump's not saying. Nigeria is dealing with Boko Haram, ISWAP, heather farmer clashes over land and water, communal violence tied to weak governance. The Nigerian government has spent billions of dollars trying to rectify these problems. But these are guerrilla groups that hit and run. They hide in vast ungoverned territories. It's not simple, and Western media keeps framing this as Muslim versus Christians. But as Bukati said, Boko Haram are common enemies of Nigerian Muslims as well as Christians. The only way to defeat this enemy is by uniting. Trump's narrative, it divides Nigerians, and the only people who benefit from that division are the Tero people themselves. Now, let's talk about something uncomfortable. Christianity and Islam, the two religions Nigerians are fighting over, didn't come from Nigeria. They didn't come from Africa at all. You see, before Arab traders arrived in the 17th century, before European missionaries showed up, Africans had their own spiritual systems, ancestor worship, nature spirits, moral codes that held communities together for thousands of years. Islam came with Arab slave traders who captured millions of Africans. Religion became a tool of conquest, a weapon. Centuries later, Christianity arrived, and here is where it gets really revealing. King Leopold II of Belgium, responsible for one of history's worst atrocities in the Congo, he told missionaries heading to Africa, your essential role is to facilitate the task of administrators and industrialists. You will interpret the gospel in the way that protects my interests. He instructed them to teach Africans to disregard riches, while Belgium extracted rubber, ivory, minerals worth billions. Make them submissive, obedient, focus on heaven while their worth was stolen on earth. So when I see Nigerians finally building refineries, keeping wealth at home, moving to economic independence, and suddenly a foreign power threatens military interventions over religious conflict that's been going on for decades, I start asking questions. Now think about this. Nigeria has been exporting crude for decades, religious tensions for decades. But when Nigeria was economically dependent, exporting crude, importing products, playing the colonial rules, we didn't hear these threats. Now, Nigeria is refining its own oil, building capacity, keeping wealth at home, and now suddenly, violence that's been happening for years requires American bombs. The timing is suspicious. Who benefits really if Nigeria's industrialization gets disrupted? Now, let's be fair and look at this at multiple angles. On one hand, if Trump's pressure forces the Nigerian government to better protect its citizens, all its citizens, that would save lives. But let's look at what else is happening. First, domestic politics. Trump is courting evangelical voters, positioning himself as the defender of persecuted Christians. That's smart politics. Second, oil and industrial competition. As Nigeria refines its own oil, they compete with American, European, and Asian refineries. Economic independence means they need the West less. Third, China has massive investments in Nigeria. We are talking about infrastructure, telecommunications. If the US destabilizes Nigeria, that's a win against Beijing. And Trump is not the first to use humanitarian language. You remember Libya? 2011, NATO said they were protecting civilians. But Gaddafi was planning something that could have changed everything. The African gold dinar, a currency backed by Libya's gold for African oil trade. It would have challenged the dollar's dominance and funded industrialization across Africa. Now we know this from the Hillary Clinton email leaks. Her advisor explicitly mentioned Gaddafi's gold-backed currency as a reason for intervention, it would challenge French and American influence. Gaddafi fell and Libya, it collapsed. The currency plan failed. Dollar dominance in Africa remained unchanged until now, until Nigeria starts building industrial capacity that could support economic independence. President Tinubu responded, religious freedom and tolerance are foundational to Nigeria. The characterization of Nigeria as religiously intolerant does not reflect our national reality. Now, that's a leader who knows sovereignty is on the line. Now, people are saying, but people are being unalived. Shouldn't someone help? Yes, but as Bukati said, unilateral American intervention will only escalate matters and be counterproductive. The US has nasty experiences in Afghanistan and Iraq. Do we want that to repeat? In Africa? In Nigeria? Bombing Nigeria won't fix corruption, create jobs, or stop droughts that push headers into farmers' land. What will it do? It will disrupt economic momentum, give the terror people propaganda, destabilize West Africa, make ordinary Nigerians, both Christian and Muslim, less safe. So the question is, does Trump's approach solve the problem? Or does it serve other interests while disrupting Nigeria's path to industrialization? Here is where the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Look at Russia right now. NATO's proxy war in Ukraine. US officials have been honest. Documents show the primary objective is weakening Russia militarily and economically. So Nigeria builds the world's biggest refinery right after Gaddafi was unalived for planning an independent African currency. Right while Russia's been weakened for challenging NATO, right when China's influence in Africa is growing. And suddenly, there is urgent talk of military intervention over violence that existed for decades. Same playbook, different targets. Now, Nigeria isn't just any country. With the Dangote refinery, Nigeria becomes a global player. If Nigeria succeeds, others follow. Ethiopia is building, Kenya is moving, Rwanda is planning. But if Nigeria gets destabilized, it sends a message: don't industrialize, stay dependent, don't challenge the dollar. Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso already kicked out US troops. Ghana and Benin are watching. China and Russia are waiting. You see, Africans are tired of lectures, especially when these lectures coincide with economic moves towards independence. Both Christianity and Islam came to Africa through violence. Europeans told missionaries to make Africans ignore wealth while it was stolen. In 2025, just as Nigeria starts reclaiming economic control, building what Gaddafi dreamed of, those same religious divisions are being used to justify potential intervention. There is an old proverb: when two elephants fight, the grass suffers. Nigerians are the grass, and the elephants, they are fighting over oil, industrial capacity, and who controls Africa's future. Let's not let imported religious divisions derail economic progress. That's exactly what happened during colonization. Now, here is what's at stake. If Trump's pressure leads to protection for Nigerians, good. But if this justifies intervention that disrupts industrialization, Africa's largest economy faces chaos. The blueprints for African industrialization dies. Other countries think twice about independence, and Gaddafi's dream dies again. But if Nigeria stands firm and continue building, this could be the turning point where Africa says we will solve our problems and control our economies. Partner with us, but don't dictate terms. And that terrifies some people, because an Africa that refines its own oil, builds its own industries, controls its own wealth, that's an Africa that doesn't need permission. So here is my takeaway. Trump's threat might come from genuine concern. If it protects Nigerians, that's valuable. But the timing when Nigeria achieved these industrial milestones, that raises some questions. Why now? Who benefits if Nigeria's progress gets disrupted? Why does this pattern repeat whenever countries try protecting their resources? When foreign powers suddenly care about decade-old problems, right when a country makes a move towards independence? Now look at the pattern, look at Libya, look at what happens. Ask, who benefits from keeping Nigeria weak? Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I want to hear from you. Is the timing a coincidence? Is Trump's threat purely about protecting Christians? Or is this the same playbook? Should Nigeria continue industrializing regardless of pressure? Can Africa break this cycle? Drop your thoughts, especially if you are Nigerian and if this changed how you see it. I'm Asongwa Luis. Share this video